Hello, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere that's not California anymore. For me, I have escaped. My name is Brian Engelman. This is Strictly Football. And that guy right there is Mike Bara.
From the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. You keep forgetting that part. Otherwise, how will people find us? How will the Arcturans find out where we are?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Anyway. The Arcturans drink a lot. They're very unreliable. But how will they find us if they don't know?
So are we one of them?
No.
Are they us? Drink a lot and not reliable?
They are notoriously unreliable, the Arcturans. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Blake is. No, I'm just kidding, Blake. We love you. But Blake might be jumping in as a special guest. We shall see. He has a million things going on, but we do shows with Blake on the side. Mike, please tell people about your show and what you do. I know we did one 2 days ago, and let people know how to find that and your Seahawks content as well. By the way, one of your Seahawks pages on YouTube through Restream needs to be reconnected.
I've tried that, and it keeps saying it's the wrong account, and I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, and I don't. It disconnected it's actually my Twitter X, Seahawk Boys Twitter X. You can reach me on Seahawk Boys TV on YouTube, Seahawk Boys TV on Rumble, Seahawk Boy Mike on Twitter X. And then I have my regular show, Real News Live with Mike and Jen, which is on Rumble. That's the Rumble channel, Real News Live with Mike and Jen. And we do shows like Tell the Truth Wednesday. We do a show on Monday, and Toxically Masculine Tuesday, which you've been helping us out on for several weeks. Appreciate that very much because, you're masculine enough that we had you on. There you go.
It's been fun. It's been fun. Like I like how we're all just kind of jumping all over the place. Like,
well, we live streamed the vice presidential massacre the other night. And,
that was a massacre, wasn't it?
Yeah, and not as bad as it could have been, but yeah, it was a massacre. So.
Yeah, it was sort of on. All you had to do was turn the volume off and just watch it. It kind of was.
Yeah. My favorite one from Vance was looking kind of side-eyeing into the camera, like, did he really just fucking say that? Did he really just say that?
Yeah, it's like, please continue. Wow, I've made a lot of friends with school shooters. Like,
shooters, yeah, I'm friends with shooters. Yeah, that's how you lose a debate in one line. Yeah,
and look, anybody can flub, and maybe I don't know. In the heat of I said, obviously, I didn't make friends with school shooters, but like, ask him about why he was in China and Tiananmen Square didn't happen. Listen to that train wreck of an.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
So
by the way, we agree to disagree no, we don't. We're not going to remain friends. If you're so fucking brainwashed that even after I show you the facts and the truth, the best you can do is say, well, I agree to disagree, then we're never going to talk again because you're a fucking idiot. All right, let's get to some football, buddy. Let's talk some football. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Google Chrome requesting to bypass the system private window picker and directly access your screen. Allow for 1 month. What does that mean? Hang on. Like I said, my new computer gave me a new box.
Yeah, new computer problem. There we go.
Okay, let's talk about the games of last week. Here's the strategy for today. We're going to talk about what happened last week, what we learned. We're also going to then go to Mike Bara with all of his insider Las Vegas wheelings, dealings, hints, and tips.
It's actually Jim Mitchell's insider information, but we're going to go with that, yeah.
Yes, so we'll get to that right before we make our picks.
That's right.
Mike had a pretty good week last week, and I don't think we picked all the same teams, so that might mean I did not. I don't know, or maybe I went perfect.
We had a pretty good week because we had a lot of similar picks last week.
Okay. So we'll get into that as we go. Let's start with the I don't know, what I consider to be the most miserable one of the week. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Mike is a Seattle Seahawks fan, and my Browns ended up losing a game that really was snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The Browns started off the game really strong, took a 10-0 commanding lead in the first quarter. Kevin Stefanski has this thing, not sure why, but he strategizes game plans and practices, coaches his team up on the very first drive. We'll go 15 plays and a touchdown, 16 plays and a touchdown.
Yeah.
But then things go really cold until the end of the game. And that's pretty much how this played out. The Browns did not score in quarters 2 or 3, put 6 on the board in the fourth quarter, missed the extra point. And that proved crucial because when the Browns were driving around the 15-yard line or so, they had a chance to knock in a field goal to tie it and send it to overtime. But instead we were down by 4. And that leads to Deshaun Watson, who rolled left, got hit, didn't even chuck the ball up. You have to toss it up for grabs.
Yeah.
Knowing the situation, he took a sack instead. But on the day, Deshaun was credited or discredited with a fumble and an interception. But that interception hit Amari Cooper in the hands, and as he started running, he popped it straight up to the guy that caught it. I take that interception off the board, regrading Watson. I take the fumble off because that was an Ethan Posich lousy snap. And I'll give him completion on that. I'll give him credit for the Amari Cooper touchdown that they called back for phantom holding. So I say Deshaun Watson in the regrade. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 246 yards. He wasn't the only reason why we lost that game by any stretch, but he does need to be perfect and be the superstar we're paying him to be. Those are a few of my quick thoughts. Of course, you can check out the Unhappy Hour Sports Show for my hour-long show where I broke down all the game with special guest Adam Reese this time. He's a longtime member of the group in Facebook. Mike, you watched the game, maybe not as closely as I did, but, the lowly Raiders are 2-2. The Browns slipped to 1-3. Did you have any major takeaways from this game?
Well, yeah, I did, and it's going to go into the same thematic route tree when we start talking about the Seahawks game. The officials cost you this game. You had some mistakes. The Amari Cooper interception was inexcusable, and those kinds of plays should not be counted as interceptions, or they should be noted as tipped ball. In other words, you shouldn't necessarily count it against a quarterback. That was a completely unprofessional play. I've always thought Amari Cooper was totally overrated. All he ever did to me was run into the open spot in the zone when he was with Dallas, and they throw the ball and Amari Cooper's dog as far as I'm concerned. But that was inexcusable. It was an inexcusable play. You guys hurt yourselves, but here's the bottom line. It was 20-16 midway through the fourth quarter. Deshaun Watson throws a solid pass downfield to an open guy, turns, rips it all the way for the go-ahead touchdown. Your defense is fantastic. I think if that touchdown stands, you win the game. The Raiders don't get close, and the referees took it away from you. And for absolutely no reason. Even Ross Tucker, who's calling the game, is like, I don't agree with that call at all. No shit, Ross. They literally made up a holding play out of whole cloth. They made it up out of whole cloth, and this is going to go into the Seahawks game. Now, in our case, the officiating did not cost the Seahawks the game. Their inability to stop the Lions cost them the game. But it contributed to the possibility of them being able to win. In your case, this call wrecked your chance to win the game. It was as if somebody called down from New York or Las Vegas and said, we can't have the Browns beating this point spread or winning this game or whatever it was, because there was no justification for that. And I'm past the point of, this is incompetence. Literally, how can there be a penalty that you literally cannot see? Okay, either the referee is so incompetent that he should be out of the NFL this game right now, or he did it on purpose under orders from somebody else, or out of his own pocket because he bets on football. There's literally no excuse for that. There was no hold. There wasn't even anything close that you could remotely call holding on that play, and it pissed me off not just on your behalf, but as an NFL fan, because I want to believe that the games are fair and they're not rigged, and it's becoming increasingly hard to believe that based on what I see sometimes on the field, Brian.
I appreciate that getting my back there. And of course, it's not really getting my back. It's just you're calling it how you see it. And how you see it is the same way we all saw it. And let me go one step further on this point. Two points. Number one, you're talking about, are the games being fixed, this, that, and the other. We know Tim Donaghy in the NBA, he's been busted.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break. A million people have been doing this. Pete Rose just passed away. Rest in peace. I ran into him in Vegas one time, and they kept him out of the Hall of Fame. He never bet against his own team that you could determine. But as a Cleveland Browns fan, we feel as though the referees in the league have had it in for us since 1999 because we were able to keep our team. We kept our team name. We kept our team colors. And they've always been salty that they weren't able to completely steal our team. We have referees invent plays like in, I think it was 99 when we came back, the Bottlegate game. When Tim Couch was leading a game-winning drive and he went down, they got a first down, went up to the line of scrimmage, ran a play, that was incomplete. Then the refs came in and said, no. We were calling a timeout. We were reviewing the previous play. We're like, no, we already ran the play. no, we were waving, we were signaling that we were going to, but you ran the play instead. They go, yeah, that's what it happens. If you run the play, you can't go and reverse the previous play.
You cannot take the play off the board that's already
in Cleveland. They did in Cleveland, and that's what created Bottlegate when everybody threw their bottles onto the stadium grounds. And whether it's in the AFC, was it divisional game against the Kansas City Chiefs with Baker Mayfield, who threw a touchdown pass to Hollywood Higgins, but Dirty Dan Sorensen of the Kansas City Chiefs came by and hit him helmet to helmet, causing a fumble through the end zone, which was a touchback. That should have been 1st and goal at the 1-yard line plus a 15-yard penalty. That guy should have been ejected, but the NFL referees are always rigging it against the Browns. It seems like we have Blake Walley in the room.
I don't think you're unjustified in saying that. And the same thing with the Seahawks. We got called for things that seems like other teams just don't get called for. On the other hand, during the Pete Carroll years, we had a few breaks. We got a few breaks on calls, but stupid rules. I mean, it's funny. There was one game against the Lions in like 2015 where KJ Wright, the Lions fumbled the ball into the end zone as they were trying to score. KJ Wright just takes it and pushes it out of bounds, and the referees say, "Okay, touchback." Right. And we get the ball and they say, well, no, the rule is that you can't deliberately bat the ball out of bounds. And I'm like, okay, so technically it should have been a penalty on the Seahawks and the Lions should have gotten the ball back. But then here's the thing. Neither Pete Carroll nor the Lions coach at the time, he was Jim Caldwell, neither one of them said a thing about it. And it's like, okay, if this rule is so obscure that not even two coaches with like 67 years of football between them know that that's the rule, and Pete said, I thought you could back the ball out of bounds on defense. Why would that be a penalty? Why wouldn't you be able to do that? So they would make, we got some breaks on calls, but we also got calls that just are ridiculous. And I'm going to get to that when we get to the Seahawks game, the DK Metcalf pass interference. And the Chiefs get every call in the book plus some. As we talked about, I think last week, Patrick Mahomes has had 22 interceptions overturned by the officials in his 6-year career. Tom Brady had 16 in his 20-year career. So there is an agenda. And the officiating. I mean, the thing is that there's no accountability for the officiating. If a referee makes a ridiculous call in English Premier League soccer that costs a team a game, it's brought out in public, it's discussed, the guy is suspended usually for at least 1 week, and they say this guy did it wrong. Now with VAR and things, they have other issues. I think what we've got to go back to, Brian, is I think we have to go back to what we had 3-4 years ago, where literally any call can be challenged.
I think that's fair. Why not? I think that's super fair. And it's so weird because we've all seen that where a quarterback will get in trouble, or the running back, they can knock the ball out the back of the end zone. It's called a safety. You forfeit your possession, you have to punt it back, and there's 2 points. But like, it's something you can do. I don't know. It's just I also think we need to stop changing the rules every single off season. We need to. It's hard to even understand. Wait, why is the time not stopping?
Yeah, but you guys,
it's the second quarter after Memorial Day, and then if that happens in the final 2 minutes, then the clock will run as long as you're like, oh my God, just simple rules. It's a simple game. We're overdoing it.
Yep.
Hi, Brian. I'll introduce everybody to this gentleman here, the Purple People Eater. He is Barney for the dinosaur. He's purple. What else is purple? Famously purple.
Well, unfortunately,
your Minnesota Vikings. Your surprising Minnesota Vikings TVs, Blake Walley.
Right. Yes, I left both of my Vikings jerseys in Minnesota. I forgot to grab them when I was in town, so I'm gonna have to buy another one. I'm trying to get a Blake Cashman jersey, I believe. But this is my purple shirt that I got from my pillow, Mike Lindell, on his little clearance sale. These are probably not something I'd wear in public, but it's actually quite comfortable.
Yes, it's a little bit sheer and sexy there, Blake.
Oh yeah, it's a dream.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I was
just gonna do a quick cameo, Brian, but I didn't know you were gonna be streaming on all of my channels. Now I felt like, well, I gotta make some kind of an appearance.
I gotta look presentable, right?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Hey, that's what we do around here. We want everyone to get their message out as many places as possible. And we'll get to your Vikings right after we get to Mike's Seahawks here. This was a 42-29 defeat of the Seahawks by the Lions. Jared Goff had a perfect game,
right?
The immaculate game, but he didn't even get the game ball. They said sorry, and of course, he didn't realize he just 18 for 18. Look, a lot of scoring. This is a type of game I enjoy watching. Of course, I played defensive end. I always appreciate defense, but Mike, you watched this closer than I did, aside from the fact that I had a ton of fantasy football implications on this game. Walk us through, what did we learn in this Lions victory?
Well, the thing is, again, this is kind of what we expected. I said, look, we were down 3 of our 4 starting defensive linemen. I knew we weren't going to be able to stop them. So it's a question of we had to score a lot of points. Their secondary is weak. And we were able to take advantage of that with some, again, short throws. The Seahawks have probably the best run after the catch receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba. They catch the ball, they run downfield, they get an extra 8-10 yards every single time, which is why Geno Smith's yardage numbers are so inflated this year. But we scored enough points to keep ourselves in the game. Every time they scored, we scored. Then Mike Macdonald, I believe it was 35-27 or 20. Anyway, yeah, we were down. And instead of taking a single extra point, he goes for 2 in the middle of the third quarter. When you're down 2, you're down 14. You just scored a touchdown. You can now get within 7. It makes no sense whatsoever. Analytics is the death of common sense, because then it's a 2-score game. People talk about, it's a 1-score game if you get because they're only 8 points behind. That's 2 scores, because you have to score a touchdown and then you have to score what amounts to another touchdown on the 2-point play, which is only a 48% chance of success. So you put yourself actually into a hole. And that's one thing about McDonald that's really upsetting me, is this idiotic adherence to these stupid geek fucking analytics calls, which they're just nonsense. Analytics is the death of common sense. Use your brain. You kick the extra point, which is a 95 or 98% possibility. You're only down 7. And there's a psychological aspect that analytics doesn't take into account. Now, having said that, there were 3 calls in this game that were, I think, flat out fabrications by the officials. I simply do not understand them, maybe even 4. And you got to go back and look at this, that the officials did not cost the Seahawks the game, but they did cost them a chance to win the game, because if these calls were made correctly, we would have been within 5 or 6 points on the last drive with a chance to win the game. We didn't deserve to win the game, but we would have had a chance to win the game. First call is an offensive pass interference call on Tyler Lockett, third quarter. He runs a route. Defensive back is right in front of him. They smash into each other a little bit. Lockett then cuts and goes into his route. All he was doing was running his route. And we completed the ball short of that to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who got a first down. A crucial first down brought us inside the 30-yard line, chance to at least score a field goal on that drive, which then would make it, 42-32 would have been the final score if we'd have gotten a field goal. So there's an opportunity there. The referee doesn't throw his flag until after he sees that Njigba catches the ball and gets a first down.
Yeah, like the holding on the Amari Cooper touchdown that they brought back. There wasn't, you didn't even see a flag. The TV screen did not even show a flag. It's like, who's calling this phantom flag?
So then, and they were like, oh, well, we can't have them getting a first down. I think it had to do with point spreads. The other one that was major was DK Metcalf in the end zone. Absolutely just gets mugged. The guy gets there 2 or 3 seconds before the ball gets there, wraps him up, mugs him. It makes it impossible for him to catch the ball. Most obvious defensive pass interference you could imagine, not called. And just ask yourself, if that was the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, would that have been called? 100% of the time, they don't call it. There's literally no explanation for it other than we just don't want to give the Seahawks the ball at the 1 yard line. So there's a touchdown there. So now it's 42-39 with the ball in the Seahawks' hands, the last possession, with a chance to tie or win the game. They didn't deserve it, but again, this call, there's simply no explanation for why it was not defensive pass interference. Here's another thing that screwed it up. There was one other call that I forget that I wanted to talk about, but Jared Goff gets caught, and they call it a safety late in the game. I think the lines were up 11 or something like that. And they call it a safety, and you can see that he's grabbed by this guy, by the defensive, I think it was Derek Hall, but he holds the ball completely out of the end zone. Okay? All of it, the front, the back, everything. That is not a safety. But they went back and reviewed it. They didn't call it a safety on the field. They went back, they took a timeout. There was a 2-minute TV timeout. They come back, and then they call it a safety. Even though clearly on the replay, it's not a safety. Why would they do that? Well, because it actually was to the advantage of the Lions to take the safety rather than them having to punt out of their end zone. They actually were able to push the Seahawks back further because they were still up 11 at that point. So, what the referees did is they went and they intervened, called not a safety, and help the Lions in terms of field position. And I'm like, I can't think of any other reason why they would do that because, even the announcers were going, well, that's not a safety. If he's got the ball completely out of the end zone, you get forward progress. So, look, here's probably the basic problem. I think these games are being manipulated from New York. I think they're being manipulated from Las Vegas. I think the NFL is in on it. And I think that they try to do it in games that are not too widely known or too widely seen. Like, do people really, if the Seahawks weren't on Monday Night Football, would that many people have really watched the Seahawks game last week? Probably not, because we're the Seahawks. We're kind of irrelevant, just like the Browns are kind of irrelevant. But there has to be some system of accountability for officials. And the problem with that is that if they did that, if they actually looked at who are the best and who are the worst officials, all of the girl referees would get fired every year. Because they're terrible. If you notice the girl referees, they never call pass interference. They never call, illegal block. All they ever do is spot the ball, and they usually get that wrong, or call a offside or an illegal procedure or an illegal formation. The women referees literally are out there just for show. They literally don't let them call anything important in the game. And the guys they do let it call important calls get them wrong more than 50% of the time. And so you just got to ask yourself, what's the agenda here? Because every team can complain about officiating. That's the problem. Nobody should be complaining about officiating. We should get it right 90% of the time. Yeah, and we get it right 40% of the time.
Yeah, you're mentioning how you make a call, but it's the wrong call, and then you don't make a call, but it was the right call that you should have made it on, and it's wrong on both sides. I remember politically they said Republicans are the party of no ideas, and Democrats are the party of bad ideas. So it's like, would you rather have more calls with more of them bad, or less calls with more overlooked calls? I don't know. Can we just be accurate? Just
every year they want to see what happens on the. Yeah, every year they have their points of emphasis. The only point of emphasis next year should be 50% reduction in all penalties in all games all across the board, back like it was in 2007 before Roger Goodell came along. I'm just going to tell you, I believe the number of penalties being called is to make it easier for referees to affect the outcomes of games, because I think somebody's getting paid somewhere along the line here.
That is an interesting point, Mike. And I just wanted to add one point. I'm going to go to Blake Walley to ask him his thoughts on, the referees in general, as to whether he thinks they're over influencing the product on the field, and if he happened to watch the Seahawks game and had any thoughts on it. And we'll get to his Vikings, of course, after that. But I did want to make a point connecting two earlier threads with the Browns and the Seahawks there, and as far as penalties. We were talking about that phantom holding call for the Browns that led to taking the Amari Cooper long touchdown pass away. We have the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, on the defensive side for the Cleveland Browns. He gets held by one or two or three people on every single play.
Yep.
And the referees just let it go, because the rumors are, well, you're too good. You're too good. Well, if we threw a penalty every time you got held, we're never going to do anything. You're just going to go all the way back to the 5-yard line. It's like, well, yeah, that's what it should be. You're robbing the NFL of all these highlights. So if you're not going to call all of the penalties committed on Myles Garrett from the opposing offensive lines that cannot ever block him,
right,
you at least owe us the decency of not calling ticky-tack shit on our offensive linemen. When in doubt, swallow your damn whistle and don't be there. You owe us that. If you're not going to give Myles what's due to him, you owe us sitting down and shutting up and swallowing that whistle, Mike.
That would be if you're giving him the benefit of the doubt that the officiating is honest. And I'm reaching the point where I don't think it's honest anymore. Anyway.
No, that's fair. And let me bring in Blake Walley, TV's Blake Walley, the Vikings fan. First off, did you see the Seahawks-Lions game? Have any thoughts on it? But then jumping into the issue of refereeing, you used to live in Las Vegas as well. It's a gambling town. We know what's up. Pete Rose just died, by the way, famously held out of the withheld from the Hall of Fame because of gambling. Any thoughts on the game in particular, and then any thoughts on refereeing and gambling?
Well, I guess I was dismayed by the end and that safety call. I was hoping Goff got that pass up. I'm not 100% to who it was, but I needed another 25 yards from Mont St. Brown. I could have I could have made like $500 on a couple of player props that I had he made the 70 yards. So that was a tough loss.
So does that mean that your $500 was the reason why they called in from New York? Like, dude, Blake's going to make half a G. You got to watch this.
Yeah, we can't let Walley have that $500.
Right. You never know. But I do believe that it is probably rigged at certain times. So I don't trust it. I've seen enough blown calls in my lifetime. And yeah, I completely agree. They should be able to review anything and everything. So that's a disgrace to the game and the product.
If we had the situation like we had in 2021 or whenever it was, they let him do that. The Seahawks would have said that was defensive pass interference. They would have replayed the DK Metcalf call. Everybody would have said that's defensive pass interference. Like the Seahawks would have had the ball at the 1 with Ken Walker. They would have scored. And so now it's a 42-36 game going into the last drive. The Seahawks have the ball. So, it would have affected the outcome of the game. So it's time to bring that back because this officiating, they're officiating the games more, and they're doing a worse job.
Yeah, that's a bad combo right there. Blake, let's talk about a good combo. Sam Darnold and the rest of the league. Sam Darnold proving himself. Sam Darnold and the Vikings. That's a good combo. Vikings get the win 31-29. Oh, my Lord, Blake, your Vikings are 4-0. What is happening up in Minnesota?
Oh, it's great. It's an unexpected surprise. We weren't really sure what to expect. I figured they could win anywhere from 5 to 10 games this year, depending on how well Sam Darnold did. And he has exceeded all expectations and then some. So it's great to put him in a good situation to see how talented that he really was coming out of USC and then being in some tough situations with the Jets and the Carolina Panthers. Didn't quite get to he was good on San Fran, but they already had Purdy. And so now he gets a fresh start in Minnesota with a decent offensive line and weapons around him and a good offensive-minded coach. And he has thrived in the system. So very refreshing. Great to see him win some tough games against San Francisco, Houston. And, of course, it's always a bonus when you win in Lambeau. They were really up ahead big time at the half and then almost let the lead slip away, but were able to pull it off. Also of note, of course, the great defense of scheming there. So that's always good to see. Brian Flores runs quite a good defense. They're fun to watch, and yeah, we'll see. I will be watching them. As you can see, I'm in the England. I don't remember the name of the stadium, Tottenham something. Where they're going to be playing NFL.
Yeah, it's just the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this normally is a football, soccer
stadium that you'll never see a trophy in. Spurs haven't won a trophy of any kind for like 50, 60 years. They just keep not winning trophies.
Sounds like Cleveland. By the way, speaking of sound, Mike, your audio sounds better. I know we've been tweaking audio.
I got this working again. So yeah, that's
good. Kudos. It is definitely sounding good. Yeah. So Blake, you play in England. What's the story?
London. Yeah, it's going to be at 9:30 Eastern. So the quick early morning game if people have the NFL Network, and they will be able to tune in. It should be an interesting matchup against Aaron Rodgers, except he's on the Jets, not the Packers. So it should be a close one. I think some people are kind of expecting the Jets maybe to pull off an upset. They also have a very good defense, but we'll see. I will be watching and looking forward to this.
Yeah, your Vikings were in command of that game, but they let 22 points on the board in the fourth quarter. I mean, you almost let it slip away, but look, good teams find a way to win those games, and bad teams will always find a way to lose them. Or like Mike said, the referees will guide that.
They'll help you along if you're not doing good. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, let's pause on that game and move over to this one.
I'm going to run, but thank you for having me on there. Just a quick cameo today. I got a bunch of stuff to do, but thanks for having me, and we'll do it again. I'll get a Vikings jersey. I got to order one up.
You're always welcome, by the way, Blake. Every time. They're always welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we'll look forward to watching the rest of the show. Take care, guys.
Tell people where to follow you real quick.
All right, TV's Blake Walley on Twitter, and of course, thenextlevelnews.com. All right, everybody, be good.
Perfect. Peace out. There he goes. TV's Blake Walley. Look at that. That was a cameo, Mike. That was our first cameo.
Yeah. Quick cameo from TV's Blake Walley.
And it was kind of fun, too. Yeah. Let's talk about Giants Cowboys, sir. Dak, 2 touchdowns. Giants drop another one. Giants found a way to beat the Browns, but could not pull it off on the Cowboys. Both those teams whooped the Browns. Cowboys much more so. What did we learn in this game?
Not a lot. 2 bad teams. They're just not. Neither one of them is very good. We play the Giants this week. The old adage, win on Monday, lose on Sunday. What happens when you lose on Monday? Do you still lose on Sunday? I think the Seahawks are going to be kind of beat up. Giants have had 10 days to prepare. This is the second time we've had to play with a team that's had a lot of extra time to prepare. I think it's going to be a tight game, but the Giants just aren't very good. I mean, they're just not very good. So same thing with the Cowboys. I don't have a lot to say about that game. Just 2 teams that really aren't going anywhere from my perspective.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, 2-2 Cowboys, 1-3 Giants. Look, next game we have here, Saints and Falcons. 2-2 versus 2-2 now. Falcons, look at that. Found a way to get this done. Their kicker knocks in a 58-yarder, 2 seconds left, and get that come from behind win. Look at that's what some veteran leadership at quarterback could get you in the position to at least have a chance at that game. What did we take away from this Falcons-Saints game?
Well, I mean, I really felt like the Falcons deserved to win that game easier than they did. They dominated pretty much the whole game. Saints made a late comeback to try to make a game out of it. I think justice was served, and the Falcons won the game. And you got to say, look, the Falcons have been impressive the last couple of weeks, so you got to give them some credit for playing well. I think the Saints were kind of a mirage those first 2 weeks. Maybe they're getting a little bit exposed. I don't think Derek Carr can maintain that level for very much longer. So Derek Carr is always going to revert to being Derek Carr.
Perhaps it will. Yeah, I mean, that whole division kind of looking interesting. We'll get to the Buccaneers. That's the team I like rooting for in that division. But let's go to another team that Baker Mayfield played for. As a Browns fan and a lifelong Browns fan, I will always root for Baker Mayfield. I appreciate him. But Baker's former team, the Rams, they dropped to the Bears 2-2. Caleb Williams, he gets 4 scoring drives under his belt, and the Rams dropped to 1-3. What are we thinking here with that injured Rams team and the up-and-coming Bears?
Well, like you say, I'm always going to root for Russell Wilson because of what he did for the Seahawks for so many years and carried the team. So yeah. I'm the same way as you are with Baker, and I like Baker too. I love his competitive nature. This is again the Rams. They got Matthew Stafford. They don't have much else. Defense is a shambles. The offensive line isn't very good. I like Tutu Atwell. But the story of this game is Caleb Williams finally coming into his own, finally getting some passing yards. What did he have yardage-wise? Can we go up a little bit?
Yeah, Caleb had 17 for 23 for 157 with 1 touchdown.
He's not throwing the ball great, but I think he ran for a touchdown. He threw for a touchdown. He's starting to get into the NFL game a little bit, and we know he has Cam Newton-like talent. The thing we hope he doesn't have is Cam Newton-like character. So we're waiting to see on that. But any guy who paints his fingernails pink probably isn't going to be a superstar, but he's going to be a really good player. He's going to make fantasy owners happy. And I think he started to show that, hey, he's getting the NFL game down a little bit, and good for him.
Yeah, he did not have a touchdown rushing. He had 12 yards rushing on the day, but DeAndre Swift, who helped me in my fantasy league, and Roschon Johnson, a very good backup running back that could come into his own. He had another one on the day.
You got Romo Dunze, you got Swift, you got Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. You should be getting more out of that passing game.
Allen, yeah, DJ Moore got a touchdown.
Yeah, you should be getting more out of that passing game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're hoping that will be the case. We'll see how the season shakes out. Here's one that was super interesting. My boy Joe Flacco. I was in Cleveland the night that Joe Flacco whooped the Jets and clinched a playoff berth under the lights in Cleveland at nighttime. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. I love Joe Flacco. He unlocked a Cleveland Browns offense last year that seemed non-existent under the very confused and unsure of himself Deshaun Watson last season. I love Joe Flacco. I will root for him now forever. And he filled in. Anthony Richardson, the young quarterback for the Colts, the often injured. You don't want to say that with another Colts quarterback. Peyton had his problems, and we know that their last quarterback retired because of health issues. But Joe Flacco leads them to the victory, and then that helps me because that gives the Steelers the first loss on the season. Colts win 27-24. What say you on this one?
Well, again, I think the story here that is pretty interesting is just how ineffective Anthony Richardson is. And, there were rumors in 2023 the Seahawks are going to trade up to the first pick. They would have taken Anthony Richardson instead of C.J. Stroud. I wanted C.J. Stroud. This is simply more proof that I know more about quarterbacking than John Schneider and the Democrats and the Seahawks. No, Richardson is just not that good a player, and he's not developing. And although he has great athletic ability, that's just not. He's not exciting. Justin Fields had a really terrific game. Yeah. 312 yards. That's pretty amazing for Justin Fields. But he still, I don't think, sees the field that well, and they're not productive in the passing game. 1 touchdown. I still think when Russ gets healthy, Russ takes over. I was surprised. I thought maybe if they fell behind, I think 17-0 in that game. And I thought if they fall really far behind, we may see Russ in the third quarter or fourth quarter. And then that'll be the changeover. But it didn't happen. They stayed in the game. You got to give Fields a lot of credit. I just don't think he's ever going to be a great passer in this league. And, Lamar.
I saw him play good football at Ohio State. I know he has it in him. Yeah. It's just, can he keep leveling up? Will he be given enough chances to keep improving? Yeah, two rushing touchdowns and 300 yards. Like, you'll take that out of Justin Fields.
Yeah,
but it wasn't enough on this day, luckily for me, because I will root for a Steelers loss every single day of the week. Let's move into Broncos-Jets, 2-2 teams, and Broncos got another one. I mean, not a lot of scoring, 10-9, but Bo Nix had his first passing touchdown of the year. Aaron Rodgers, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, good for Bo that he got a passing touchdown. He's still coming along very slowly. The whole team is coming along slowly, though, but they have a good defense. I think the Jets are a mess. I think Robert Saleh is the worst coach in the NFL. I don't see Aaron Rodgers sticking around for this. I don't think he came here for that. They have such a long way to go. And unless they get some flip where they really start playing well, I just don't see that marriage working out. So I'll tell you what, Seattle, go get Aaron Rodgers at the trade deadline. Throw him a first-round pick and Geno and move on. Two really bad teams, almost an unwatchable game, even with Rodgers. Rodgers still has everything physically. He just doesn't look like a good situation.
Well, let's talk about a better situation. The Buccaneers, Baker counts for 3 touchdowns, throws for 350, and they beat another good team. We've always heard there's a Baker Mayfield cycle. Oh, he struggles. Then he's the underdog. Then he beats up on an inferior team. Then he plays a good team and loses. Then he blames somebody. Then he beats up but that's not the case. That was always unfair to pin on Baker. And look, they've had a couple of tough wins this season already. Buccaneers are in first place in their division at 3-1, and they beat the Eagles, who are really kind of struggling on offense with their stuff. What did we learn in this game?
Eagles exposed, Buccaneers good. They had that off week. They had to put a major effort into beating the Lions. Got beat up the week after that. I think against the Broncos, right? They blew the game at home against the Broncos, but came back. Baker's great. Baker is the key to this team. 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. Holy hell. He's playing great. Buccaneers look like a strong playoff contender and possibly division winner down there. So good for them. They played a good, solid all-around game. They're a good, solid all-around team. Well coached by Todd Bowles. Let's talk about Mr. Bowles. Good coach, good man. And his team's looking pretty good.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Bengals. They're looking better than they had been looking previously. Burrow hits 2 touchdown passes. And, Panthers are going to Panther. But, it was a 10-point game. It wasn't a total blowout, but they fall for 1-3. What do we got here?
Well, Panthers are playing better. They definitely got an improvement with Andy Dalton in for Bryce Young, but they just really aren't that good a football team. And neither are the Bengals, but they're better at home than Carolina is. So, or was that in Carolina? I forget. I think it was in Carolina. Yeah. It was a game between 2 pretty bad teams, but the Bengals are a little bit better than the Panthers, and they squeaked it out. So good for them. Bengals didn't deserve to be 0-3, but they also didn't deserve to be 3-0 or even 2-2 because they didn't win the games. But this time they finally pulled it out. So I think these are two teams that are probably going to be picking in the top 10 or 15 in the NFL draft coming up. If not Carolina's case, the top spot. We'll see.
We shall see. If the Browns don't get their act together, we're in the running as well. All right, let's move on to the Jaguars and Texans. Jaguars might have that number 1 pick, honestly.
Yeah, they surprised me. They played tough. I don't know what you do with the number 1 pick if you're the Jags. Here's the thing, Brian. To me, it's like, well, we can't take a quarterback because we have Trevor Lawrence. Well, if Trevor Lawrence isn't doing the job, and you get the number 1 pick, and you like Shadur Sanders or you like Quinn Ewers, you got to take him. That's too much money invested at the quarterback position. This is the NFL. You can't have too much money invested at the quarterback position. Number 1. Number 2, if Trevor Lawrence can't take the competition, then he's not good enough to win you a Super Bowl anyway. So Jags are bad. They played better than I thought they would. They played the Texans tough. Texans came out and got it at the end. CJ, another great game. Not a great game, but a game that wasn't, it was a serviceable game for CJ Stroud. That's 345 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. The guy just doesn't make mistakes, which for a second-year quarterback is amazing. So, Texans have some things to be concerned about, but they're not bad. They're not bad. They're definitely a playoff team.
Yeah, they knocked us out of the playoffs last year. We know they're good. Nico Collins being back really helps. Tank Bigsby running okay on the other side. Brian Thomas Jr. with another touchdown. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, he had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but they fall by 4 points, and it things are bad, they get even worse. When it rains, it pours.
He's just not productive. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not getting enough done. Talk about productive, though. This is who we play this week, the Commanders, rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. I know. I looked at this at the beginning of the season, go, well, at least we're going to beat the Commanders. Now I'm going, oh, Lord, this could be a tough one. Cardinals get motorboated 42-14 at home to the surprising Commanders. Are you surprised?
Yes and no, because I didn't think the Commanders were very good, but Jaden Daniels, it shows you a great quarterback will lift your entire team. I think the Cardinals were unfortunate to not win one of the first 2 games that they lost. I thought they played well. I don't think they're playing as well now as they were the first 2 weeks, so they're starting to drop back into, Cardinalism here. And Jaden Daniels, best rookie quarterback I've seen since CJ Stroud.
Oh, wow.
He's going to be amazing, and he's an amazing player, and he did everything you could ask of him, and just what a phenomenal player, and what a phenomenal threat, too, because just his simply being on the field makes defenses adjust to all the different things he can do. So talk about a superstar, talk about a great player. Everybody's going to say 3 years from now, Bears should have taken Jaden Daniels number 1, not Caleb Williams. That's what I think, but, an ass kicking. It was just an ass kicking.
It was. You called it a cardinalism? Was that the word? Cardinalism?
They've descended into cardinalism. They're at their cardinal level now. Which they'll probably
not cannibalism, cardinalism.
Cardinalism. Yeah.
All right, let's move to this one. The Patriots might be descending into cannibalism here at a 1-3 start. Not so good. Patriots are not used to having tough seasons like we are in Cleveland. They fall to 1-3. 49ers get kind of back on track, even their season up at 2-2, put 30 on the board. Fred Warner gets a interception, trying to lock this game down. What did we take away from this?
Not much to say. 49ers are 49ers, Patriots are the Patriots. They're better. 49ers are better. They give them a physical beatdown. Did a good job. Brock Purdy is one of the better quarterbacks in this league, and so underrated, so underappreciated. And for the Patriots, it's time to start Drake May. You're not going anywhere with Jacoby Brissett. Why don't you just put Drake May in there and let him play?
Yeah, not a bad idea. And Jordan Mason still doing okay, 123 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Mm-hmm. But I think Stevenson had another fumble. They're talking about maybe benching him. Yeah, he lost another fumble. I was going to say there's nothing a Belichick team hates more than fumbles, but Belichick is gone. However, his legacy, I'm sure it sitting in that building pretty thick, at least some of the philosophy that made them so successful. All right, we talked about the dirty, lucky Chiefs over here, they take out the Chargers, dropping the Chargers to 2-2 on the season. Chiefs remain undefeated, thanks to, reasons. What do we take away from this one? Travis Kelce, Mahomes.
I don't think we take much away from it. Travis Kelce is just old. I just think he's reached the end of his real productive years. Had to happen. He's not as good a player. And I think he's distracted by all the Taylor Swift nonsense. Chiefs are better. And again, I don't understand. Jim Harbaugh, you would think, would be a guy with common sense. Okay. Third quarter, 10-10 ball game. You're playing the Chiefs, the defending champions. You're at the 8 or 9 yard line, fourth down. You kick a freaking field goal and go up 13-10 at home. So if the Chiefs score a touchdown, you still can win the game with another touchdown. Instead, he goes for it on fourth down for no freaking reason whatsoever because of the stupid analytics book. And the momentum of the game shifts. And that's the thing analytics doesn't take into account is emotion, momentum, how you feel, how your players feel, how you feel. And when your team drives down to the other team's 8 yard line, you want to reward them with some points. And I thought that was a stupid mistake, and I thought it turned the momentum. Chiefs don't look that great. They got all these injuries. They lost Rashee Rice, it looks like, for the season. I think they're going to be in the Devontae Adams sweepstakes, and if Devontae had any brains, he would go there. I don't think the Raiders want to trade him to a division rival, but, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm putting my first-round pick on the table for Devontae Adams right now, today.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine teaming him up with Patrick? I don't want to envision that, but you talk about momentum. I remember the 2016 Cleveland Indians were up 3-1. We blew that, and it came down to Game 7, crucial Game 7 in Cleveland. Rajai Davis hits a home run. The game is real close tied. Then there's a rain delay. We had all of the energy and momentum, but that rain delay slowed everything. It was a total Control-Alt-Delete, and the Cubs were able to find a way to pull out that victory. Momentum can be everything. In
2001 Seattle Mariners, greatest team in history, 116 wins. Nobody ever matched it. They were 91-14. They were just some incredible record, whatever the hell they were. And 9/11 happens. And they were basically 500 the rest of the year and lost in the divisional playoffs to the Yankees. So the momentum was simply killed by 9/11, and that's what happens. You're right. It's so the momentum in football, especially, is the most important thing.
Oh God, there's another one when the Cleveland Browns were going to the season that we were stolen. We started off in having a very good season, and right after that, we tanked. We went awful. Our heads were not in the season the rest of the time, but we were a legitimate Super Bowl contending team that year. But that energy we had nothing in us. It just crushed.
Last year's national championship game between Washington and Michigan. I watch both teams. I'm like, Washington's way too fast for these guys. They should be able to score a lot of touchdowns on Michigan. But Saturday night before the game, Kalen DeBoer, their coach, interviews with Alabama for the Alabama head coaching job. Word leaks out. This is his last game. He's going to Alabama. The Huskies come out completely flat, get run over in the first half, and end up, a game that was close until late in the fourth quarter, but took all the air out of their sails because every player on there knew that their coach was dumping them to go to Alabama. So these kinds of things do matter. These kinds of things.
How dare they leak that stuff? And you know what? If he was a smart enough coach, he would have made sure. I'll tell you what, I will render my decision to you immediately after this game.
Look, here's the thing.
Here's
the thing. He was angling to get the great job at Alabama or somewhere else. That's what he was always angling for. He was never going to stay at Washington. So whether Washington won or lost that game didn't matter to him. What mattered to him was getting that big deal with Alabama, and he had it. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah, you hate to see that. It's so unfortunate to the kids all season long, and then just ends up imploding because of that stuff. All right, let's talk about this. A team I wish would implode, but I'll tell you what, they had a really impressive, perhaps the most impressive win of the week last week. The Baltimore Ratbirds, even their regular season record at 2-2, whooping on the Buffalo Bills, who dropped to 3-1. Derrick Henry, 199 yards rushing with a long of 87. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, he runs for 1, throws for 2 more. Wow, what do you take away here? This is a statement game, Mike.
Yeah, Ravens brought the physical. Bills didn't seem like they really wanted to be there. They were 3-0, kind of fat, dumb, and happy. And when they got behind, I think they kind of just like, well, we'll come back next week. So I think it was really just the Ravens were desperate to win that game. They had to win that game to stay in it. They did. Bills are saying to themselves, well, we'll get them when we get them back in Orchard Park. So that's all that was going on there. One of those games that just happens during the season. Every team's going to blow a game they should have won.
By the way, also, fat, dumb, and happy is sometimes how Blake, Walley, you, and I are referred to, although I don't know in what order. I'm not sure what order that goes.
I would be fat. I'm the fat.
I'll give Blake happy. We'll give him a nice one. Why not?
That makes you dumb.
Well, what about Mason Rudolph? He's the one that got in the fight with Myles Garrett. I called him fat and dumb. And, not happy so much. But look, he led the Titans to their first win on the season. Yeah. And the Dolphins, man, they are struggling. Tyreek Hill was my number one pick in my fantasy league. He ain't giving me nothing with any of these quarterbacks now that Tua's gone. Titans on the board. Dolphins match them at a 1-3 record. What's our takeaway here?
Dolphins should think about just selling everything at the trade deadline. And anybody that wants our players, come and get us, make us an offer. We'll talk about it.
Would Tyreek Hill go back to the Chiefs if it makes sense?
Good question. Good question. It's another option.
Wow.
Imagine if they got them both, Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams.
Stop. I don't need the Yankees in the NFL.
I think Mahomes is overrated, but I think with those two guys, he'd be really good. Look, Titans would have won this game either way. Dolphins are a mess. They're a shambles. Seahawks beat them up last week. They got beat up again this week. Whether it's Will Levis, he got injured. I think if Will Levis is the quarterback, they still put 30-31 up as the game goes on. They wore the Dolphins down. Dolphins didn't really want to be there. 31-12. That's the way it goes. And nothing much to say about it other than that. I still like Will Levis. I still want him to succeed. So
let's take a look at week 5. Do we want to pull up the picks? Who's making the first?
Sure. I can pull mine up first, and we can go.
By the way, before we make our picks, this is where you tell us about what your insiders are telling us. I guess you'll walk us through pick by pick.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want to go through pick by pick on that. I'm just going to read Jim's tips for this week. Let me get my other glasses so I can read my phone here.
Sure thing. And let me pull this off the screen here.
Mitchell's tips for the week to let everybody know. Okay. Kirk Cousins is 4-13 against the spread on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night. So night games, you don't want to bet with Kirk Cousins. Panthers are 1-9-1 straight up on the road. Bears are 10-21 straight up. So those are trends. Lamar Jackson is 13-4 straight up. So you might want to think about that. The Bills are 17-5 straight up after a loss. So that might be an indication to it. The Bills are also 7-3 straight up against playoff teams. The Dolphins are 5-18 against the spread as an underdog. I'm sure they're going to be an underdog this year. And teams that play the Santa Clara 49ers are 10-26 straight up the week after. So bet against the Patriots. Browns are 14-22 against the spread after a loss. That's not a good sign. Raiders are 8-4 against the spread against the AFC West. Gardner Minshew is 10-18 against the spread overall. Broncos are 9-18 against the spread. Let's see. Kyler Murray is 17-6 against the spread on the road. Brock Purdy is 13-2 against the spread at home. So bet 49ers. Kyler Murray, we already did that. Rams are 3-9-1. Straight up as a home dog. This is bad for me. Daniel Jones is 9-4-1 straight up after a loss, and he's 18-9 against the spread as a road dog. And they're going to be both of those things this week against my Seahawks. Steelers are 6-1 on Sunday night games. That's Thursday, Sunday, and Monday on night games. Sorry, straight up. And the Saints are 2-6 straight up against playoff teams. So those are your trends for the week. So keeping that in mind, let's go back. Let me switch over. I will share my picks from last week. And I had a pretty good week last week. Week 4, I was 11-5. That's a great week. I'm 39-25 on the season. Those were my picks from, I didn't get Cleveland right, but I blame that on the refs. So let's go to week 5 and pick our picks for this week. Week 5. First game is tonight, Thursday. It's Tampa at Atlanta. I'm going to go with, these are two pretty good teams. It's going to be a tough tough game, but I'm going to go with the road team. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On Sunday, the Vikings and the Jets. I think the Jets are really dreadful. I think the Vikings are due for a loss, but it ain't going to be this week because they're playing the Jets. I don't care how good Aaron Rodgers is in Minnesota against the Vikings. Baltimore and Cincinnati, tough call. Baltimore's the better team. They go on the road. They drop Cincinnati to 1-4. Buffalo at Houston, 2 really good teams. Do the Bills lose 2 weeks in a row? The Texans haven't played that well. Do I take the road team? I just think Houston's not that good right now. They're good, but they're not playing that good. I'm going to take a risk and say the Bills here. Chicago, Carolina. Chicago, Caleb Williams is greater than Andy Dalton. I think they're going to win at home. Browns versus Redskins. I would like to vote for your Browns, but I think they've got a lot going against them, including the officials. I got to go with Jaden Daniels to keep it hot. Indianapolis at Jacksonville. Jacksonville gets their first win of the season. They finally turn it around a little bit. Trevor Lawrence has a good game. Wow, crummy game of the week. Miami and New England. Good God, I'm going to take New England in that game, even if they start Drake May. 49ers in Arizona. 2 teams going in the opposite direction. 49ers get their second win in a row, beat Arizona easily. Vegas at Denver. I'm going to like Denver at home. I think Bo Nix is going to finally have a pretty decent all-around game. It's coming. Green Bay at Los Angeles. I like the Packers. And even though Matthew Stafford is, as a home dog, has a very good record, I'm going to go against the trends on that one and say that the Packers are going to sneak out the win. New York at Seattle. Again, this is a trap game for the Seahawks, but I just don't think Daniel Jones is very good. I don't care about Daniel Jones being 9-4-1 straight up after a loss, or being 18-9 against the spread as a road dog. I just don't think the Giants are good enough all around to beat the Seahawks at home. I think the Seahawks win it. Dallas at Pittsburgh. This is such a tough call, but I got to go just with the home team. Because at nighttime, I just don't think Dallas is very good. New Orleans and Kansas City, I'm going to go for Kansas City to go 5-0. And those are my picks for this week. Brian, what do you think?
Nice. Well, I think you left me a little bit of room to try to level up. My record on the season is not as good as yours. On the season, I am 29-35.
Underwater. We got to get you a good week so you can get above water here.
Let's do it. It's going to start here. Baker, touchdown maker. They're going to take care of business. That is a very good team, and they're still improving. And they have studs. They have playmaker studs over there. Yeah, Minnesota, New York. It's hard to root against. How am I going to vote against and root against the Minnesota Vikings or pick against them when they haven't given me a reason to yet? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think the Jets have potential, but I'm just going to stick with the Vikings here until they prove me wrong. I think we might separate here. I think you went with the Baltimore. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think they just started so weird with the Jamar Chase contract stuff and some nagging injuries. They are a very talented team. They're a super multi-AFC championship game in the past, 5 or 10 years now.
Right.
Under the new leadership. So I think they get it done at home. Buffalo, Houston. Good. I'll get back to that one. Chicago, Carolina. I think this one is going to go to Carolina. I think leadership will get it done. Shockingly enough, I do like their defense. I really do like the Bears' defense, but I just don't see their quarterback doing enough at this stage. And I think Dalton is really shining. In comparison. Right. This one, I'm picking Cleveland. I think that what we've seen out of the Browns, when I did my hour show on the Unhappy Hour, I really said that we gave the game away on 10 different places. Any one of those plays, we win that game. Yeah, I think we won that game, and we should be a 2-2 team thinking differently about ourselves right now. So I'm going with it. I don't think our season is lost, and I do think we can come back and still be a playoff team. We just have to play a whole ton better. We do have talented players, though. So I'm picking Cleveland. Indianapolis, Jacksonville. I do want to say Jacksonville for their first win on the season, but Joe Flacco, he's money. He's elite. As Donald Trump told us, Joe Flacco is elite. I'm going to go with them. And I just think there's something residual in Miami that can get this one done. The Patriots aren't looking fantastic either. And I just know the Dolphins were a very good team. I know that there's some residual muscle memory there. The Patriots are rebuilding and figuring everything out. New coaches, new schemes, new players. They're still figuring it out there.
Yeah.
San Francisco, they're good. They
easy.
have a problem with the Cardinals. But of course, it's any given Sunday. I could be wrong. Denver, Vegas, I just haven't been impressed with what Denver's done. Of course, 2-2 is way better than 0-4. They're not getting much on the board, but it's been enough. I think the Raiders, amidst all of the Devontae Adams trade talk, I think they still get this win in Denver. It'll be tough on the road, but whatever. It's NFL. Suck it up, Buttercup. Green Bay, Los Angeles. I do like Green Bay here. The Rams are just too dinged up. Seattle, you guys are going to get that win. Dallas, Dallas whooped us in game 1. It made us look way worse than we actually are. I just hate the Steelers. So I'm going to say Dallas with the upset, Pittsburgh at home.
Right.
New Orleans, Kansas City, fine. I'm going with the Saints. The Chiefs are banged up. They're starting Kareem Hunt at running back, for the love of God. So I'm going to go with them. And then finally back to Buffalo, Houston. I held off. I still don't know which Buffalo team is going to show up. So I'm going to say Houston in Houston for this win. And that wraps up my week 5 predictions, Mike.
Good. So you got a chance to catch me a few times. We got some differences in some games, and it'll be another fun week of football. So
absolutely looking forward to it. Appreciate you today. It's always great having all that inside chatter to kind of give us some betting perspective. And on your way out, tell people where they can find your stuff if they want to find you outside.
Seahawk Boy Mike on Twitter X. It's controversial, especially if you're a Seahawks fan, but because I tell the truth about Geno Smith. Seahawk Boys TV on Twitter, on YouTube. Seahawk Boys TV on Rumble. Get over there, subscribe, follow me. Because we do this show, I really haven't done Seahawks videos for a while, so I'm gonna need to get back to that. But that's where you can find me. And thanks for being here. Go Hawks!
Absolutely appreciate it. And our site is called The New American Media. Find us in all the places. The Unhappy Hour specifically, we have a separate YouTube channel for that at The Unhappy Hour _ on X. Find us there. And we do have our The Unhappy Hour Sports Show podcasts on Spotify. So subscribe and like us there. All right. So we're going to let you go. Enjoy the Thursday night football game. Make sure you set your fantasy football lineups. And if you're gambling, gamble responsibly, please. If you can't set it on fire, don't risk it. Okay. All right, cool. Well then, Mike, I will see you later for another Strictly Football episode next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
See you next week, Brian.
Take care, everyone.